I'm calling this outfit the Miss Frizzle outfit, not Ms. Frizzle, because it's young and it's fun. And it's what I feel like she would wear if she was 20. So. Hey guys, I'm Mackenzie and welcome back to my channel. I am a cosplayer slash aspiring costume designer, and today I'm going to be taking on one of my childhood dreams, which is to make Miss Frizzle's space dress from the first episode of the Magic School Bus. Let's go. The inspiration for my interpretation of the design is coming from this Free People dress that I got on clearance a couple years ago, like 5 years ago, and from Sailor Moon. So I'm trying to put this together into... Yes! I'm not going to show you what it looks like yet. Let's go through the process together. So the designing process for this, I ended up with like 3 different designs that I kind of morphed together that were Sailor Moon and Miss Frizzle inspired. So the first one had a tutu underneath, which I didn't end up doing, but I did choose the top from this one. And the second one had more of a flounce skirt, which is what I went with, but I didn't end up lining the bottom. And then that top one there, that's the third one, was the most Sailor Moon-esque with that skirt, but I didn't end up choosing that. Okay, so for my fabric selections, I decided to go with this very thick navy knit fabric. It's really stretchy and I think it's gonna work. It's pretty true to Miss Frizzle's character. And then for the accent color, I'm using this hot pink fabric. I have like 10 yards of this stuff because it was super cheap on Etsy, and I'm gonna be using this because it's what I have and it's close enough. It's also very stretchy and I'm obsessed with it, so I'm gonna use it. Okay, so let's start off with the skirt. So I am going to show you how I made a circle skirt, but a 720-degree circle skirt. So that's a double circle skirt. So when you make a circle skirt, you're going to need 4 layers of the fabric, and you're going to cut 1/4 of the circle that you need. And then when you unfold it, it should be a full circle. But the special fun of the double circle skirt is that you're going to half your radius that you would use for a normal circle skirt, and then basically you end up with 2 circles, and you cut towards the radius of one of them and then sew them together, so you have 720-degree circle, and it ends up being the correct waist measurement. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm cutting down the middle, I'm going to be pinning them together and sewing them together. And here is the math on that. So there's a little diagram that I drew, but basically my waist is 27 inches, so I give myself about 1 inch or 2 of seam allowance, bring that up to 28. I divide that number by 2, and my new circumference is 14, because remember, double circle skirt. Then I just plug that number into my radius finding formula, and voila, we have our new radius. And because of the fabric I chose, it was not giving the flounce that I wanted, so I went ahead and added in a horsehair braid. So this is like a 3-inch one, I think, and I'm just pinning it around the edges, and I'm going to sew that down and then flip it under so that I have a nice crisp edge and it doesn't like be scratchy on me. Then sew a top stitch around that, and then eventually sew the upper edge in so that it doesn't fall down. Then moving on to the bodice, our pattern is nothing revolutionary. This is what it looks like draped. I just did 1 little dart on either side of the chest, and I'm going to be bringing in the whole waist just by bringing in those side pieces. Then to start with my little pink accent pieces, I'm going to add a pink trim down the middle where the buttons would go if I had put buttons on this top. And because I'm using a stretch stitch and stretchy fabrics, it did come out a little wonky, but it's figured out later once I sew it all together. Then I'm just cutting out the collar for the top, so this is the stand for the collar. I had to watch a whole video on how to just assemble a collar in general, so this is not a tutorial for that. And I went a little dramatic with the collar and made it like 70s level big, but it's a cartoon character, so I can do whatever I want. And finally, it's time to break out my embroidery machine, which I've never used but had for 8 months. So since I'm literally putting like hundreds of stars all over this thing, I am mapping out where I want all of the planets, stars, and moons to go with just a chalk pen, and then I'm going to follow that guide loosely to figure out where my embroidery goes. And let me tell you, I was being so careful not to put stars right over the boob area to accidentally give myself star nipples. But anyway, on to the embroidery. So this is my embroidery hoop for my machine. It has a 4x4 embroidery area, and I believe my machine is the Brother SE600. So I'm just putting some stabilizing paper underneath it and just trying to line up the moon to get it roughly where I want it to be, and just shoving it in here. My fingers were like raw from doing this so many times. But here she is my machine. I just used a moon pattern that I got on Etsy, and same thing for the stars and all the planets that were embroidered. And this took forever. I mean, seriously, I think that I was watching my embroidery machine embroider things for like 3 weeks after work. I'm not kidding. And that was sped up. Here is a live action version of how fast it is. The thing is, if I have to listen to this machine for one more minute, I'm gonna lose my mind. Anyway, that was dramatic. Here's some ASMR. Okay, and the thing is, I should not complain about my embroidery machine. I love it. It took a lot of time and pain away from my hands, but the hand sewing on the sequins, now that's really special. There are like 15 planets that needed sequining, and here is a live action view of how long that really takes. I think it took me about 3 hours per planet. But all of that aside, I think it came out so good, and it was really worth it to have it sparkle. I think that making it a double circle skirt was definitely the move, because look at this. This is 720 degrees of space. I mean, space is vast, so the skirt must be vast as well. At this point, you may be noticing that my dress doesn't have any sleeves yet. Well, that's because I couldn't decide what the heck I wanted to do with them. So I knew I wanted to do long sleeves, but I didn't know exactly what that meant. When I bought the sleeve pack, this is the one I thought was gonna be the one, but this is like, there's no way. But I have extra fabric, so I might cut this and then edit from there. The sleeve fabric ended up being so big that it didn't even fit on my yard of fabric, so here I am taking in the sides, and I ended up taking it in a lot more once I had it actually on my arm. And I knew I wanted to gather the bottom of the sleeve and the top of the sleeve, so this is just pinned. My plan is to go in and to do a loose stitch and then hand gather it. I'm choosing to hand gather mine instead of using the gathering foot I have for my sewing machine because I want an exact length for the armpit hole to fit on the sleeve. To continue with our hot pink accent pieces, I'm just using this little like sleeve cuff pattern that I had left over from that giant sleeve pack that I bought, and I'm going to be giving it a little bit of a 70s flair so it matches with the collar, and then I'm just pinning it to the bottom of the sleeve where the gathers are and gathered it to the right length. Then the last step is just the fit and the assembly, so I'm just sewing the skirt to the top, and I sewed the sleeves on and brought in the sides so it actually fits. And then our last step is just to make the pink belt that she wears. So using the same pink fabric again, I'm using about a 1.5 inch belt that I got from Joann's, and I'm just cutting out a little pink encasing for it, so I'm going to sew it down and iron it down so it's flat, and then inside out it and stick the belt in. And then I'm going to be adding the hardware so it actually snaps, and I actually made it adjustable so I can be snatched or I can be comfy. And after a month of work, here's our reveal. Seatbelts, everyone!
This feels wrong.
I know, it's just like a crime, but it's not. We have permission
from the principal. Wow. This is a big step for me.
Oh yeah, here.
Seatbelts, everyone!
That's it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to come back for more cosplay content. Bye!